Good morning, it's Miss Oliver. Today we're going to be taking some cuttings and pruning some plants out of some other plants. So what I've got here, this is a Brazilian pepper. It was growing way up out of the middle of the tree of this azalea plant. So we took our loppers. These are a pair of loppers. They're used for branches that are fairly big, like over an inch wide. So that's what I use to cut this out with. It would be too hard for my hand pruners. Your hand pruners really are only used to cut materials that are about the size of your pinky. Don't cut your pinky, but that's about the size. So if you measure it, anything that size or smaller. So hand pruners, loppers. So that's one reason we prune, is to get a plant that we don't want, that is growing through the plant that we do want, out. And then the other reason we would prune a plant is to get cuttings. Cuttings are a way that we can produce new plants. So I cut some of the branches off, and Miss Megan, our para, went ahead and cut them smaller, and then I'll work with the students. I'll show you that part a little bit later. They'll cut them, they'll take the tip out, and then they'll strip most of the leaves except for a few at the top, and we'll put them in a tray. So we'll show you the process. Okay, so now you can see our plant has been pruned back. This is the shape that we want it to be in. We tried to make it where you wouldn't see too many cuts, but we had a lot to cut off. This is what we got to use for cuttings, and what you see on the ground there and there is just leftover material that's going to get thrown out. Here is the plant, one of the things we cut off. This is what we use for the cutting. So we cut it here. This one's a little small, but we'll put it in there anyway. That's trash. So this is what we make the cutting from. And I'll show you what we do for cuttings. This one has a little piece growing out, so that's gonna get cut. There's a bud right down here in the middle. There's actually two buds down here. That's gotta come out because we want the plant to branch. Now this cutting right here is ready to go, except for that I like to wound it. You wound it, and that encourages it to root. Then we'll put it in a rooting hormone powder, and then we'll stick it in a tray, probably 2 per tray. 2 per little cube, cell, whatever you want to call it. And I'll show you that later. But that is a cutting, and we'll put 2 of them in there, and then when they root, we can put them into a 1-gallon pot, and then this is an azalea, and it'll start growing. This one has pink flowers. It's called George Tabor. It has pink flowers, and when we make cuttings, we've got different kinds of azaleas out here, so we need to make sure that we keep the same kind of plant together. Okay, now that we have the cuttings, here we have a bag full of cuttings that we prepared from the pieces that we took off of the plant. We're going to get the trays ready to stick the cuttings. So that entails, we've got these special trays here. If you're at home, I'm going to show you how to do that with just a pot. But basically what you want to do is you want to loosely cover the tray. Once you cover it all once, I pack it down one time in each cell, like that, and then I put some more on top, get it level where you can see each individual cube, and then you're ready to stick the cuttings. Okay, now we're ready. We've got our tray ready. We're ready to put our cuttings in. They've already been prepared, except for a couple little things. What I like to do is find 2 cuttings that are approximately the same size when we get ready to stick them. I trim them, and then if the plant has been wounded, like on this one, I can tell it's been wounded already, so I'm not going to wound that one, but I do need to wound this other one. It's wounded. I'm going to stick it in the hormone powder, which helps the roots. Then I'm going to hold them up at the top and put them in the center of the tray and push them down. And I always like to work from the top down, so I'm not reaching over the plant. So if I'm here and I try to reach over, it makes it harder. So here we go. I got 2 short ones. I'm gonna trim them, wound it, stick it in the rooting hormone, and then stick it. 2 of them together. And then here's a 3rd size. Again, I try to match that up because all of the plants are a little different. Get them the same length, wound it, put it in the rooting hormone and stick it. And that is it. This is rooting hormone. You can get this at any Lowe's, Home Depot, any kind of garden store like that. And I'm going to have the students do this, and we'll just keep doing it until we get a full tray. Let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So 8 times 16, I think that is 8 times 16, 8, 4, 128, I think, cubes in this tray. So that's a lot. So this morning, I'm going to show you how you can take a cutting at home with just simple supplies that you have, hopefully in your house. This is a pair of scissors. I've got a cup here. We use rooting hormone when we did it at class, but if you use a plant that's easy to grow, that's very succulent, you don't even need this. You can just let that, you don't even have to go buy that. And then I've got a plastic snack bag. So what you do is this is also a pot that you could use if you have something like this, but you don't have to have this. Most people won't have that at home. So you do have to have a little cup. It does need holes in the bottom, so that's what the scissors are for. All you have to do is snip the cup a few times. This one has 3 holes in it now. 1, 2, 3. Then you do have to have some soil, so you want to put the soil in there. All right. You'll have to get a bag of soil. You could use soil from outside if you wanted to, just that you have in your yard. This is just a little better. You want the holes in the bottom so that the water can drain out. You want it moist, but not overly moist. And so you'll have to have a little saucer to put it in, or a little plate or something. I'm going to use this little plastic tray I have. So you could use the top of a container, like a plastic container, and flip the top over and set it inside of that. Okay, so now we have our cup with holes in it, the soil in it. So now what we're gonna do is you're gonna take your scissors. This is a pothos plant, or devil's ivy they call it. And what we're gonna do, it's easy to root. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our scissors and we're gonna cut off on one branch. You can see it's already starting to root. That's a root coming out. That's a root coming out. We don't need root hormone for this. So I'm gonna take one, I'm gonna put 2 cuttings in there. One, I want them about the same distance. You wanna take off all the dead leaves. That's perfect. You're just gonna stick that in there. See, it's already got a root ready to go. Just like that. Then this one, I'm gonna pull this leaf off so that when we put it in the soil, there's no root there. But that's a nice little cutting. And then, actually, we're gonna put 3 in here. Oops, that won't work. Let's get another one here. You wanna find the end and start at the end. So I always cut right above. So this right above where the root was. So I'm gonna pull this leaf off. You've got a root right here. I'm gonna stick that in there. So then when this roots, we're gonna have a nice little plant. Then you're gonna take your snack bag and you're going to, because this soil is already wet, we're not putting any more. If the soil was dry, you'd have to put more moisture on it. So we're gonna take and put the plant inside this bag. We're gonna make like a little fake greenhouse, little mini greenhouse. All right. This one has a lot of leaves, so. All right, so there it is. It'll have a way to get some air in there. Just kind of tighten it up down here. You want to make sure your leaves are all up in there though. All right, so there it is. Now I'm going to tighten it up. And there you have it. There's your mini greenhouse with your cuttings. Every so often you want to make sure, every few days you want to make sure the soil is moist. If you want, you can put the water in the bottom of the saucer that you have it in, or the plastic top to a container, and then it'll wick it up. So that's it.